On today's episode, we discuss commercial banking, North Dakota Class B sports, giving back to the community, basic income, and putting ketchup on your mashed potatoes. What?
Some of the biggest impacts in a community happen at the local level. We'll dive deep into the challenges local businesses face, their biggest achievements, and what they're doing to make a positive impact in their local community. It's time to get the word out right here on the Johnny Miller Audio Experience, powered by Veracity Storage. Now, welcome your host, the man himself, Johnny Miller.
Welcome, ladies and gents. This is Johnny Miller, and you're listening to the Johnny Miller Audio Experience, powered by Veracity Storage. Episode 4. Today's guest joined Bremer Bank as a business banking relationship manager in 2018. She most recently was a business banker for another institution in Fargo and has held various positions in banking for more than 10 years. She's an advocate for many local nonprofits, including United Way, Junior Achievement, YMCA, and the West Fargo Volleyball Club, and is a 2015 graduate of the United Way's 35 Under 35 Women's Leadership Program. She graduated from Mayville State University, where she received her bachelor's degree in business administration. She's a driven and dedicated professional who is committed to building strong relationships with others to achieve common goals. She enjoys a challenge and strives for excellence at all times. Considered a strong team player, however, she is also a self-starter and go-getter. With 14 years of experience in the financial industry and 8 years of experience in the project manager type roles, I welcome our guest today, Rammie Olson.
Hey!
Rammie, what is going on?
Thanks so much for having me, Johnny.
Yeah, guest 4.
Woo!
That's amazing. How's it going?
It's going great today.
Awesome. Well, before we get into anything with banking, any of your background, the first segment I start out with is the drink of the day, which is really cool to all the guests that are listening. Rammie actually brought me a Starbucks.
Yes.
So feel free to bring anything to me as future guests. So, but we start, every segment off or every podcast off with the drink of the day. So I literally have a huge grab bag of drinks, and it is 11 a.m. So I'm light on the alcohol, but we do have one alcoholic drink. We have our standard Busch Light. What else I have? I have Diet Coke. I have Diet Mountain Dew. I have orange juice. I have some sparkling water. I have more Starbucks like mocha drinks. I have an energy, Red Bull drink. So here's the deal. You pick the drink, and then I have the same thing with you. And we kind of kick off the podcast that way. What are you thinking? What goes good with these Starbucks coffees?
I'm already eyeing the drink that I would pick. Probably not because of the Starbucks drink. It doesn't necessarily go well with that. But that pink one, that ice drink, like a sparkling water, that's my kind of drink. Kiwi strawberry. There we go.
Kiwi strawberry sparkling ice. So we actually have to crack these right away and cheers to it. So
all
this
right,
looks really good, actually.
I know.
It actually
Cheers.
goes not too bad with coffee, I don't think. Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Thanks for the drink.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and I have actually something else for you. You won one of our contests, which was a Jersey Mike's giveaway. So I actually have 2 of these for you. Usually I only give 1 away, but I'll give you 2. So
I'm feeling lucky today, and now I can go have lunch. This is perfect.
Yeah, and one of our future guests, AJ Hofer, is the owner of Jersey Mike's. So super shout out to him.
Thanks, AJ.
Anybody listen? Yeah, if you guys want a great sub, man, hit up Jersey Mike's. AJ knows what he's doing. Hopefully we have him on as a guest, and we can learn a little bit inside on the sub world. So that'll be pretty cool. Anyway, so Rammie, why don't you just give us a little bit of background about yourself? Where you came from, how you got to where you are today. That'd be great.
All right. So it started all on a farm west of Portland, I should say, North Dakota, and lived there for most of my life. Grew up in Mayport, CG, and went to high school there. Also went to Mayville State University, go Comets, and graduated from there and decided to head south to Fargo when it came time to get a permanent job. So I applied at a bunch of financial institutions after working at one in both college and high school, and decided to go with Bank of the West.
Oh, nice. What year did you graduate high school?
2002.
2002. Oh, yeah. You're just a little young. You're just a little young pup.
Thank you.
Nice. So did you play any sports or anything? You got to be an athlete. You seem like you're
an
athlete. Right?
Yes. I very much loved volleyball. I was also involved with basketball. There was softball in there, track. At a small school, you do everything to kind of keep the programs afloat. And so that was very much what it was like at Mayport CG. It was a great experience.
Those little Class B, that's Class B,
Class
right?
B, yeah.
Class B schools. Did you guys ever play in like the state tournament, volleyball or basketball or anything like that?
Thank you for asking. We did.
Did you?
Yes, my senior year, we won both the state championship for volleyball and for boys basketball.
That's sick.
Yes.
Yeah, the North Dakota sports always interested me because Class B, it's a little bit harder to make state than like
it is.
Class A. Is it still Class A and B? Is that how they still
right.
do the classes?
Yes.
Like, I was looking at there's like 32 teams in Class A and half of them make state. Like on the Minnesota side, like if you make state, like this is a big
deal.
Freaking deal, right? Like you got sections, subsections. I mean, you got to win like 8 games to even make it to state. So,
yes.
And I know on the Class B side, it's a little more difficult. So
yes, it was pretty exciting. I think that wasn't the only year that we won both volleyball and boys basketball too. So we had a really strong group in high school, and that was really fun to grow up with, that atmosphere.
Gotcha. So that was 2002 you graduated. And then did you go to college directly after that?
I did, right? Yes. Yep.
Mayville?
I was at UND for 1 year, actually.
God,
yeah.
So Rob, my business partner, he went to UND.
Yes.
And I asked him now if it's the Fighting Hawks now, so I always razz him with that because he hates that. He's like, it was still the Sioux. So you're another person that went to UND.
Yes.
That was only for a year?
It was only for a year, and I still call them the Sioux, but I'm not opposed to Fighting Hawks. I'm Switzerland. It's all good.
Yeah, so I'm not like, actually, so my wife and I, we are huge hockey fans, and she's from St. Cloud, so we love the St. Cloud State, which are crushing it this year, by the way. But we don't mind UND hockey. Like, I'm not, I went to NDSU, so I mean, there's not a huge rivalry for me. I mean, I like the Fighting Sioux hockey, or now the Fighting Hawks, or whatever it was. But we don't really like other Minnesota hockey teams. Like, we're not really fans of the Gophers.
Mankato,
yeah. I mean,
Duluth.
It's not too bad. Obviously, it's hard to cheer for St. Cloud State. And then also like the Gophers now because they stole St. Cloud State's coach, but whatever.
I don't think that's working out very well for them anyway.
No, it's working out great for St. Cloud State.
Right.
Awesome. So then you were 1 year at UND, and then you went to Mayville State?
Yes.
What year did you graduate there?
Went back to Mayville State, graduated in 06.
06.
With a business administration degree and specializations in management and real estate. And don't forget that minor in science. I just loved my science
How's
classes.
that going for you?
Not utilizing it much, but at UND I was pre-physical therapy. So that's kind of where that science came in.
Gotcha. And then, so you graduated in 06. Did you start working for Bank of the West right away?
Yes, about a week after graduation. I was driving back and forth to Fargo to work for Bank of the West, and then about a year later moved to Fargo.
Right. I was trying to think. I know we talked about this. Like, I actually worked at Bank of the West as well. We probably weren't even that, like... Were you downtown?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was downtown as well. So I worked at Bank of the West from, I want to say, 2005 to 2012.
Yeah, and I was there from 2006 to 13.
That's crazy. So yeah, I did.
We didn't know each other.
I did everything. So what I started off as just like a customer. You remember when the call center was in Fargo? It was.
It still is. They still have one in Fargo.
They still have a Fargo call center. Yeah. So the one call center was over by the multi-band tower.
Right.
Back in the day. I started there as just basically a customer service rep taking phone calls. I think I was making like $9.25 an hour. I was just like, I need a job. This is crazy. So then I did that, and I worked my way up to like a team lead, and then I went into I was a personal banker at one of the branches.
Oh, okay.
I did like personal financing. I did residential. Well, then I went to CBT. If you remember CBT,
I do.
And
yes.
we did a little bit of basically everything: home equity lines and loans,
yes.
financing vehicles. Yeah, that was quite a journey. And then what did you do at Bank of the West? What department were you in? You were pretty close to that, weren't you?
I mixed it up a little bit. I jumped around between departments that needed someone new or someone fresh. And so I ended up in the division executive office, though, and working under Brad Rasmus. He was an awesome leader.
Cool. So you worked from there from 2006 to when?
13.
13. Oh, my God. So we're getting pretty close now to our 2019. So you got 2013. So what happened in 2013?
In 2013, I went to work for Dean Atchison at Spectrum Aeromed up north by the airport. And I was the project manager for them, and went there because I knew some former bank employees were there, and they were friends of mine. And Dean runs such an awesome company up there that I really wanted to join and try something new.
Right. What do they do? I'm not even really familiar with them.
Yeah, it's a really cool company. They manufacture air medical equipment, and they ship their product all over the world. So helicopters, planes, anything where you need basically stretcher beds in flights, they manufacture it here in Fargo.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I
my
didn't even know
favorite
they had that
customers were halfway across the world. Saudi Arabia. It was awesome.
So you're selling like B2B, like you're selling directly to other businesses? Were
Well,
you like a salesperson there, or what were?
So I was the project manager. We had a whole sales team. And so after they would make the sale, so our sales team travels all over the world, and they would make the sale, hand it off to me, and then I would be like the liaison between the customer and all of our departments at Spectrum Aeromed. So engineering, the office, so making sure their payments were coming in, any parts they might need.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow, cool. So you did that from 2013 to when?
To about a year and a half. So it was about 2014, at the end of 2014 when I left there.
Gotcha. So we're almost at 2015. What'd you do? We're getting pretty close now. What'd you do after that?
So I would have stayed at Spectrum Aeromed. They were a great company to work for, and I highly recommend working for them. I was recruited to work at Kilbourne Group and be Doug Burgum's personal business manager.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, so I was really excited and honored to be doing that. And so I made the switch to Kilbourne Group, and they're doing great things in downtown Fargo. And I had a great experience with them as well. So I was there for a year and learned a lot, and ended up needing to maybe have more mom-friendly hours. And so I was
long hours doing that.
Yeah, yep. So I decided that I needed to go back into banking and have a work schedule that was maybe a little more mom-friendly. Yeah.
How'd you get into the Kilbourne Group? Did they headhunters, or did you know somebody?
Yeah, yep, I knew somebody. One of my friends from Bank of the West was actually Doug's personal assistant, and so she had given me a call that they needed some help, and of course that was just the biggest compliment you can get, really. So I was very happy and honored to join their team. I ended up leaving just before Doug made his run or his candidacy announcement for governor. And so it was a good time to exit before the political...
Yeah, you think you were busy then. Imagine if you stayed with him then. You'd never been like...
So I said, Doug, I'm going to vote for you. You have my vote. You're awesome. And I got to go back into banking. So
Did you vote for him?
Of course I voted for him.
That was just
love him.
Yeah. Awesome. So man, that's great experience. Like, man, that's just amazing experience. You can't even pay for something like that these days.
Yes,
great
it
connections,
was.
like great people to know.
And all just super nice people. Just you don't get much better than that.
Cool. So then at that point, is that about when you got into Bremer?
No, actually.
No, you did something else after that. Yeah,
I know.
We're only at like 16 or 2017. So yeah, we're still a year
So I went back to Bank of the West. They were the bank that I knew. They had the systems I knew, the people I knew, and that felt super comfortable and familiar to me. So I went back there for 3 years and worked in the business banking department.
Right.
So most recently, I came over to Bremer about 4 months ago, and one of the major reasons was because my credit manager over at Bank of the West had transitioned over to Bremer earlier last year.
Weird how that works.
Yeah, and so he filled someone's spot that had a retirement and was looking for maybe some friendlier work hours as well, just because he had supported the West Coast for Bank of the West. And so, yeah, he was excited to join Bremer, and he set up a lunch for me with the Bremer business banking manager by the name of Julie Whitney, who is an awesome individual. And
I know Julie and her husband. They actually rent with Veracity Storage, so that's pretty cool.
Perfect.
A small
yes,
world.
It is a small world. And so after having lunch with Julie, I knew she was a leader that I could get behind. And learning more about Bremer, I knew that was a bank I could get behind. And so that's kind of where the opportunity came from. And I've been super happy with the decision to make the move. So now I feel like I'm good. I'm comfortable.
Awesome. Well, that's actually a perfect segue into this next segment. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about Bremer, what makes Bremer different, the things you like,
Right.
Maybe some of the biggest challenges you see, some of the biggest achievements you had. I mean, you've only been there like, a handful of months or whatever,
Yep.
but and then how you think Bremer can help impact the community.
Well, it's really easy for me to talk about why I love Bremer, because one thing I actually wasn't aware of, and I'm not sure how many people in our community are aware of it. I know the non-profit community is very well aware of this, but Bremer is owned 92% by the Otto Bremer Trust and Foundation, and they basically give our profits, Bremer's profits, back into the communities in which we serve. And so we're talking North Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. That's where Bremer's located. So it's a regional bank. And the other 8% of Bremer is an ESOP. So I feel like us employees have a little bit of skin in the game as well. And I think that's always kind of a good thing. So I really like our structure at Bremer. And I think if I wasn't in banking, I probably would be in the nonprofit world to some degree.
Makes
and
sense.
so I definitely respect and really admire that Bremer puts the profits right back into the community in the form of grants.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. That's definitely there's not many financial institutions that go down that route.
Not to that degree. And I think Bremer takes a really humble approach to it. And sometimes I just want to shout it from the rooftops because it's just so awesome. Last year, 2018, $50.5 million was put right back into North Dakota, Minnesota,
so cool.
and Wisconsin. I'm not sure. I haven't done the research, but I don't think other banks touch that figure.
Yeah. I mean, even if they're like donating, they're definitely not getting up to that dollar amount. So
Right.
that's
It's really
awesome.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely makes them kind of stand out amongst the other financial institutions, the way they're structured. Well, let's kind of dive a little bit into you personally, what you kind of do on a day-to-day basis with Bremer. You're basically a business banking manager or something like CBO, or what is that, commercial banking?
Well, that's kind of what the terminology was back in our Bank of the West days.
Right.
But yes, so over at Bremer, I'm called a business banker. And so basically the same as if you ever hear business banking relationship manager, same type of thing. So I manage a portfolio of clients who I'm honored to be part of. And then I also go out and search for new business. So if anyone is looking for solutions, I like to try to help them problem solve that and see if that Bremer can come up with a solution that can be fair and favorable for both parties.
Do you do commercial, industrial, both, like basically any type of commercial business?
Commercial industrial is what I specialize in. Investor real estate is handled by some of our other bankers, which I did have background in that at Bank of the West, but here at Bremer, I am focusing more on the C&I type of businesses.
Gotcha. And then how do you think the Fargo market's looking for the next year or two as far as that goes?
Yeah. I think it's looking really strong in Fargo. I think we're kind of in our own little bubble up here. And I think, we always talk about that amongst people in the community that, we don't fluctuate as much as everywhere else. And so I think that's true for this year as well. Interest rates are expected to stay relatively steady. And
yeah, it's interesting you say that. We're working on a program right now through the Small Business Association.
Yep.
And the rates are just like historical low, but it was kind of funny that during the government shutdown, that's a whole nother subject you talk about. We found out like the rates on the Small Business Association side actually like went down while the government was shut down. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the SBA programs, how that works. So anyway, when the government shuts down, the SBA is just like, yep, we're done. So like our project was supposed to close during the shutdown. Ironically, since they didn't close, the rates went down, and now we're going to get I think it's like close to like 0.25% lower.
Awesome.
Which, when you're looking at, a 20-year term and, a couple $1 million that you're financing, that's like a big deal.
It is, yeah. So it worked in your favor, so that's good.
Yeah. So it's really just interesting to see kind of how all that works and how the economy kind of all changes that. But
in the last year, I think everyone was really trying to refinance and get in at a low rate, and I feel like that environment's kind of coming to a close. It's steady right now, and I think that maybe a couple jumps this year, but nothing dramatic, nothing where people have to pay any prepayment penalties to get out of a contract just to get into another lower rate.
I know, like, when you talk about, this is kind of outside the commercial side, but when we talk about rates and, prime rate, kind of regulates the residential side.
Yes.
And I know that's jumped up like a handful of times in the last couple of years. Yeah. But there was a period when I worked for Bank of the West, literally from like 2005 to like 2006, or maybe even like almost the whole time I was there, it never moved. Like prime was.
What was it at? Do you remember? 3.25.
It was that 3.
And now it's 5.5.
5.5. Yeah. So on the residential side, that kind of makes difference. And I think there's, line of credits aren't based directly off of that, but there's another index that kind of falls along.
LIBOR,
so it's really interesting when they get into those, they call them quantum easing or whatever, like they're trying to almost manipulate the economy. But the problem is when they were at that low, they had nowhere to go. Like they couldn't go down to help the economy. Right. So, with the current increases, I mean, you talk to enough people and it feels like in the next 2 or 3 years, like something's coming, right? Like, I don't know if it's going to be another recession or what. And he said Fargo Moorhead is kind of in a bubble. So I feel a little more confident there. But it just like the economy, like in the last 3-4 years, has just crushed it, especially the stock market. But now, with the interest rates a little bit higher, the Feds have a little bit of wiggle room to like move down and kind of ease that. But it's just a crazy game, and then with the politics and who,
we'll see what happens.
The next president, and I don't know. Bernie is basically like, I don't know. Bernie against Trump would be interesting again, but.
Well, then don't you have the Minnesota Amy Klobuchar?
Going in there. She's down there. There's a guy his last name.
You're Minnesota.
Yang. There's a guy his last name is like Yang or something. He is a Democrat, but like literally like. Only the one that I follow. I'm not, obviously not huge on the Democrat side, but he's got some interesting theories. One theory, I don't know if do you listen to any other podcasts?
I haven't, no.
Well, this is going to be one you'll definitely listen to.
Yeah, so, I want to listen to all of them.
He actually, and we talked about this in another episode too. He was on, not him specifically, but he was on the Joe Rogan Experience, which is one of the top podcasts, in the world. Okay. And he brought up the theory about basic income. Really interesting. I'm like so against like a basic income, basically paying people just to be alive. But the way he brought it up was very interesting. The cool thing about Joe Rogan, if you watch any of his shows, he's totally open to like change. He has his way. He's like, hey, this is what I believe. But he has guests on, and he's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Open-minded, yeah.
And now that I understand the principles behind it, like I can change. And I try to be kind of that same way as well. And when I heard his theory on basic income, I was like, dude, that makes sense. His whole premise was that obviously everybody knows technology is, advancing exponentially. And I think we've talked about almost in every podcast, we've talked about some form of technology, some form of, artificial intelligence, some form of automation. So his whole thing was the automation and technology taking over on industries that you don't need a technical expertise on. Obviously, he talked about basically every job within the next 10 years where you're just answering a phone call or you're like a secretary type of job is going to be eliminated. But the AI is going to get so good that when you call and like say you call your bank or you call your credit card and you're just asking questions, like it'll be almost so good that you won't even know that it's not like a person. Right?
Do you think so?
Yes, they've already got the technology. It's crazy.
Who's going to invest in that technology to ensure we have that experience everywhere?
Well, they're already working on it now. It's basically, I think they're like pretty close to like having it done, other than just like rolling out. Like we're not just gonna wake up one day and then boom, it's gonna like slowly phase into it. Because right now people call and they're like, I want a person, you hit 0, 0, 0.
Right.
Like, you just keep pounding. But eventually, it'll be just so user-friendly that you just won't even hardly know the difference. So that's one industry. The other industry that's really going to get crushed, they talk about it, is transportation. Like, it's going to be, especially, trucking. The trucking is kind of his whole premises of why there needs to be, a form of standardized income or basic income, right? So his whole thing is... I think it's Amazon. Yeah, Amazon is making the fully autonomous trucks, right? Like they have the trucks done. So what they're doing is they're testing them on they have interstates where they test them, not where there's public, but they test them on roads. So basically right now as a technology, and I just talked about this with JT on the last episode, they're basically like 95% efficient on like an interstate type of road, meaning 5 times out of 100, it'll just like not stop correctly, or if an animal runs across, it'll like, won't stop, right? So obviously they got to fix that. So the whole theory is, as technology goes, they're going to have the truck driver, instead of him driving, he can only drive like 14 hours a day right now, 12 to 14. They're going to actually have him just sit there.
Passenger.
Yeah, and then basically if any issues, so when you're on interstate and the long things, the truck is just driving itself. When you get into town or residential areas, then he'll like take over, right? So that's going to be a couple years. And then after that, it's going to be like, okay, we're taking the driver out, and we're literally going to have a guy sit at his desk and like drive it remote control from like they do the planes, right? The drones.
Wow, yeah.
It'll be that. And then a few more years down the road after that, it's going to be fully autonomous. Like the trucks will be so safe, and so like there won't, any accident happens would be basically human error. I mean, there's going to be few, but it's going to be so, you think about how many accidents are now with humans, it's going to be like so less. Well, anyway, what's going to happen is that industry, like there won't be a need for truck drivers. So what are they, if you're a 40 or 50-year-old truck driver, I mean, what are your options? You can't tell them, hey, get educated, get another, it's really hard for them. And historically, like the United States has tried it. They've tried programs and schooling and technical schooling to try to get people, 30, 40, 50, and 60 to do that and then get job placement, and it's like failed. Like the placement is ridiculously low. So like, what are these people like gonna do? And then that's just in that one industry. And then, if you're looking 10, 15 years down the road, there's gonna be a lot of other industries that are taken over by that. So his whole basis is like, hey, in order to keep like society going and keep it like as a whole, like you're gonna at some point need a basic form of income, because technology is gonna take all these other jobs. I mean, you look at all the industry it already affects. I mean, you can take my self-storage facility as an example. 20 years ago, you need 6 people to do what I do, and I just do it all through on the backs of technology. Everything is almost automated.
You can rent a unit on your phone to somebody, right?
Yeah, and I could literally run the facility from my house. I could run it from Cabo, from freaking anywhere. Like I can run the facility. All I got to do is have the units basically ready to go for the customer to move in.
Right.
But I don't even got to be here. Like I literally don't need a person. So that's kind of the basis of like his basic form of the basic income, and it kind of does make sense as you go down. A couple of the things it could do too is if you're only giving it to U.S. citizens that aren't criminals, that are paying their taxes, so you could have them like make sure they're like a good standing citizen. It could potentially, $1,000, is that going to keep someone from maybe committing a certain amount of crime where they won't get that $1,000? Possibly.
Yeah, maybe.
It could lower the crime rate. I'm not sure if 1,000 like change anybody's basic needs. And the biggest issue is, hey, will the prices of things go up, right? Because there's an influx. But just the ideas that they talked about definitely got me to like kind of think about it.
Very interesting. Yeah, so, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. That was kind of off topic again. That was like one of the rants. I always get on a technology. I should just have a technology and the thing is, I try to do like a motivational section that's really positive, but some of that comes off as like, oh, this is scary. And I talked to JT about this. Like, you just have to adapt. Like, you have to change. And we talked about, if you're doing the things that you've always done, like that's the wrong way. Like,
exactly. And banking's the same way, Johnny.
Right. It is.
We have to be adaptable.
Banking has changed.
On top of things.
Especially like, on the personal side. Like I remember even back in the day when they didn't have like mobile deposit. Like I hardly ever go to the bank anymore.
Right.
Like even our business side, any checks we get, I do mobile deposits.
Yep.
Like it's so easy, and obviously the online banking stuff has been around for a while, but it's getting more and more efficient. A lot of things you can do.
A day like tomorrow where there's going to be a winter storm, you can still get your deposits in. And
right. Oh, that whole segment was about how the Fargo market was doing. We kind of went on a rant there. What else I got here? So we talked about kind of Bremer, how they make a difference.
Yes.
Cool. And then we'll go back here. We got a little bit of time still. So you were the business manager for Doug Burgum. You got any good advice from that, or anything you learned that is on the top of your mind?
So much. I actually want to say that I think a lot of my communication skills were really enhanced that year that I worked with Doug. I was in charge of all of his communications, and he'd obviously put his personalization on everything after I initially got it ready for him. But just even simple things like writing emails or how to talk to people, it just really enhanced my skills. And I can see that coming over into business banking now and working with business professionals.
Right. It'll blow your mind. It still blows my mind how unprofessional people write emails. I mean, I get it if you have a friendship relationship, you're like, blah, blah. But, like, it literally... I used to work for Ferguson Enterprises, right, before I started doing this full time, and they didn't really have, like, an email format. Like, obviously, it's a plumbing, HVAC, heating industry, so it's a little bit different, but the communication was unbelievable. Like, I literally could not believe like how people were just like typing stuff in like the subject line, like your question, like the whole email in the subject line, like blows my mind. It's like email etiquette, right? Yeah. Like, oh my God.
Well, and doing something in the subject line that actually grasps the attention so that they want to open your email in a timely manner.
Yes. Or just like if you're doing business to business, like have the subject line. So, like, if they need to find it, like, down the road, they can find it, like, put the job title in the subject line.
Something that makes sense.
Like, the part number or whatever you're looking for. Like, anything in the subject line. Because, I mean, I'm a folder guy. Like, I move up. Like, any email I get, basically, it goes into its own separate folder. And then you literally can find... I have emails from when Veracity started in 2013. If anybody needs anything regarding anything ever, customer... any document, anything, it literally takes me about under a minute to find any single. And in relationships like that, for like, hey, if I'm getting you stuff as a financial institution, or I'm reaching out back to a customer, or I need to get something to my accountant, when I can get it to them in like under 20 minutes, like that's my goal. Like I'm just like, you email me, you need something, where most people it takes 1, 2, 3 days, I will get it to you in under 20 minutes, as long as I read the email. And then you're about building relationships and building trust. And so the email etiquette's huge. So you learned a little bit about that. Well, what else?
I think that even just learning common sense, it was really nice to work in the private sector for a while and kind of get away from corporate banking, because it was fun to work for companies who could have some freedom to make different decisions. So, for example, at Spectrum Aeromed, we talked a lot about lean manufacturing, and I became lean certified. And basically, that means doing things as efficiently as possible.
All right.
And so, in a clean environment, too, might I add. So, when you think of manufacturing, you think of maybe a dirty shop. That's not the case at all. When you practice lean manufacturing, you're going above and beyond the others out there. But it's a kind of a common sense approach, and lean is like that too. It's common sense. It's what makes you operate more efficiently. And so the same thing I could say with Kilburn Group. We took a common sense approach to things, and you're able to do that with a little more freedom in the private sector. And so then going back to Bank of the West, you kind of lose some of that freedom in the corporate financial institution world. But now coming to Bremer, more of a medium-sized bank, I do feel like we have a little more of that freedom, which I love. So I'm super happy to be back in banking, and I love that Bremer can take a common sense approach to decision making. So and no, not to knock on the big corporate banks, but the bigger they get, the more regulated they get. And sometimes as an employee or even a customer of those banks, it can get a little bit of a headache for everybody involved. So common sense.
That's for sure.
Amen.
You get those big banks or big corporations, like it takes forever to do anything. Like some of the biggest companies have been crippled by that fact that they literally can't communicate with their customers. Like they got to get, every time they send out a tweet, it's got to be approved. Every time they do something on Instagram, I get the corporate thing, but one of the most valuable things on earth is people's time. So if you can save people time, they're gonna love it. So I almost take a little bit of approach like that for my storage business. So imagine if you view it like this. I view us as a time management company that sells self-storage. Imagine that. I'm doing it opposite. So I'm saving you time. My whole goal when I started in self-storage was what sucks about self-storage? What things do I hate? I hate that I can't get a hold of anybody after 5 o'clock. I hate that I can't get a hold of anybody on the weekend. I hate going in to sign the lease agreement. I hate that it takes me a day or two to get into a unit. And I'm just like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And that's kind of what we've done. There's a couple features we have is I take calls 24/7. Obviously, people usually aren't calling after 8 o'clock anyway.
Right.
I'm at home. I got my phone. You're usually answering anyway. Like people can, I direct the calls right to my phone. I have online chat where people can chat with me 24/7 online. No other facility in town has online chat. Blows my mind. They all close at noon on Saturday, so they don't take calls after noon or Sunday. I'm like, I'll take the business. I'm at home watching football or on the golf course. I can certainly take a phone call. Like, it blows my mind. And it's about efficiency. And I can sell people, I mean, I can be running an errand to Fleet Farm and someone can have an online chat with me and all I need is their name and email address and I can send them a lease agreement and I can tell them, hey, go to the storage unit right now if you got to move in and sign the lease agreement but before you open the door, basically, is like all you got to do.
Right.
So it's literally like if you can save people time and provide them value, like you're going to win.
Solution driven, yes.
And the big businesses, like they're kind of crippling themselves. And I mean, there's a reason. I mean, it's no joke, like these big businesses. And I've talked about this on a couple podcasts as well, how they're like those big box stores that are going out of business. It's just mind blowing. Like they refuse to change. They refuse it. Like they've always done things this way. If you're not adapting, it blows my mind.
I'm with you.
Yeah. So basically the efficiencies, you're right. That's awesome to get an experience where you can learn efficiencies. I've always considered myself, I call it a min-maxer, right? It's really weird. It sounds kind of bad, but what I do is I want to get the maximum possible result with the minimal amount of effort. So basically you put systems in place where you can just maximize your results.
Right. Well, efficiency is big on that then.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's all about that. I mean, that's everything I kind of do. Awesome. So you kind of learned a little bit of that stuff too, working for Doug.
Yeah, and I got to dabble a little bit into the political world, which I'm not super political, but it was really fun to learn a little bit more about the whole process of how someone would run for governor and what
I've always wondered
that entailed.
I don't know if it does interest me, but the politics is like, I would like to know more how the political side works, right? The problem with me is I'm really like have addictive personality. So like when I do something, like I'm all in, and then for a while, like, hey, all this other stuff I was doing is so, but I mean, it definitely helps me with like in golf. It's something, you know, I always love. So like it's a game you can never get better at. So I'm always, you know, playing. So sometimes I'm kind of unlikely to dive into something new just because I'm like, oh, what if I love this and I just get addicted to it?
Right, and
like,
you know it's probably going to be a mountain.
Yeah, because you can only do so much. Right now, like I'm doing the storage and I'm doing the marketing, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Podcasts.
Now I'm into podcasts. And my other buddy said, hey, we should start our own podcast. I'm like, dude, I do not have time to do another podcast.
And you're a dad.
And I'm a dad. I have an 8-month-old, so I'm like balancing that. My wife is crushing it. I mean, it's awesome. And it's not even summer yet. Like I still have to get golfing here soon. Oh, and then I have a simulator in one of my heated garages, so I hit 100 balls almost every day. I practice from about 4:30 to 5:30 every day. So like, you don't just get good at things by just thinking about it. Like you have to execute. Yeah. You have to like the word like talent is like thrown around there. It's like they're obviously like someone's born with like a little bit more talent, right? Like, but in general, like talent does not exist. It's all like how hard you work.
Created,
like, if you work hard, you can work harder than the next person. You're gonna beat them. Everybody's basically born with nothing. I mean, obviously, yeah. I'm 5'8". I'm not gonna like play in the NBA. No matter how much I worked on basketball.
Be the point guard.
No, I mean, no matter how much, like I'm never gonna be in the NBA, right? But like, there's other things you can do. Like golf, obviously, you don't need the height. You can work hard at golf. You can work hard at business. You can outwork people. You can do things that nobody else is doing. Like, just do it. The funny thing is, and I talk to my other buddy like this, it's about execution, right? There's a million ideas. Everybody has ideas. I talk to people all the time, hey, I got this great idea. Execute. Like, execute. No one executes. It's literally like, well, less than 1% execute. That's why I could have friends say, hey, I'm going to start a podcast or I'm going to start this business. No, you're not. No one does anything.
Well, I
like,
think
they
it's
didn't
about
execute.
how you present yourself as well. So, you know, even if you're not born with the talent and you've worked really hard, how you present it to other people is maybe how successful you're going to be. And so that, you know, is a compliment to you, Johnny, because you just have the personality that can mesh with so many different people. I mean, business banker, and then your next person coming in is doing something totally different. And
well, yeah, it's about building relationships.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some people that, you know, I'm not their cup of tea. I mean, it's just my personality. The thing is, too, I mean, it's really easy. If you are just yourself, it's so easy. Like,
Agreed.
I say this in a weird way. Like, I literally do not care what other people think about me. Like, it's a weird thing. Like, I care, like, obviously my wife's opinion in this, but, like, in general, I'm listening to you and I want to help you and I want to build a relationship, but, like, anything, like, negative, like, it doesn't affect me at any way. Like, I'm going to be, like, who I am. Obviously, people I have really close relationships, I'll take, you know, their opinion and see if it's something. But life gets really easy when you just don't care what other people think. Because they're not doing anything for you anyway.
Right.
So if you're just like true to yourself, you believe in what you believe in, life gets really easy.
And it took how many years to learn that?
Oh, like I'm still learning. Like I'm 41 and I'm still like...
So when we try to teach our kids that, it's so hard to understand sometimes because they just don't quite grasp that yet. But that's definitely the message we're trying to instill. Not to be arrogant or to, you know, don't care, but just don't let that affect you. Don't let that ruin your day.
I mean, a lot of it has started,
you
know,
down.
since, 2014, starting this business. And honestly, like, podcasts have been huge to me. I don't know if you know who Gary Vee.
No, I don't know Gary Vee.
He's a freak. So, like, a lot of this stuff I talk about and, like, how I'm passionate about and how it's, like, ingrained in me, like, comes from his podcast or, like, a Joe Rogan podcast or, like, people's other podcasts that I listen to. And I just, like, it's almost like I'm regurgitating it, but I really believe in it because I'm just, not reading it off of something. Like, these are things, like, they all say this stuff, and you listen to different people, and you're like, that makes sense. Like, I get it. Like, this makes sense. Let me try to incorporate it. And, like, holy shit, this stuff works. Like, it's, like, there's a reason why these people are at the top of their industries. Like, it's not, like, a joke. It's not a fluke. They just didn't get lucky. Like, there isn't, like, people, Gary Vee, he came from Russia, right? His dad worked at a liquor store as a stock boy, and then he bought his own liquor store. When Gary Vee was 15 years old, he took his parents' business from like $3 million to $60 million in liquor sales off the back of the internet. Like, the internet was just coming up. So now he owns a digital marketing agency, and he is just crushing it. And the guy is, I call him like a truth teller. He literally just tells it the way it is. Very similar to, like, some of the ideas I'm talking about. A lot of that I just get from him, and it's just like, dude, this makes sense. Like, his personality, like, I can relate. And he's really polarized. Like, people either just do not like him and think he's like a sham, or people are like, oh, wow, that's like, the thing is, like, he just tells it the way it is, and he has a background that has proved it. Like, now he owns, like, I think his ad agency's worth like $500 million. Like, he's sick, and his whole goal is, like, to buy the New York Jets. Like, and he's going to do it. And he's basically like a year or two older than me. Like, the guy's a freak. Anyway.
Wow.
That's another soapbox on. Anyway, all this stuff is, I'm telling you, people, podcasts, listen to podcasts. You can learn a lot. And especially, it's so easy. You can be walking around the house. You can be cleaning the house. You could be cleaning the garage. You can do anything. Have your headphones in. Just listen.
Always learning. Lifelong learning.
It's one of the most efficient ways. It doesn't take any of your time if you're just doing other things. So that's why podcasts, and that's kind of what we're trying to do, in the Fargo Moorhead market, just provide a ton of value.
Right.
That's my goal. Awesome. Well, we're going to get to the next segment. It's actually called the Suck OTD, the super unknown question of the day.
I'm nervous.
It's super easy. I mean, you don't have to be nervous. Like, I don't know the questions. So we just read it. It's kind of like a cool way to end the podcast a little, keeps it really light, a lot of fun. So basically, there are 100 unanswerable questions that will blow your mind. So you need to pick...
Unanswerable?
Well, they are answerable. Like, so we had a Winnie the Pooh question, really weird. We had a land in Canada with a plane question, was really cool.
Okay.
And then acting like a kid. So those were the 3 so far. So you pick a number between 1 and 100.
1 and 100. 77.
77. Any significance on that other than the year that I was born?
Oh, hey, that's perfect.
Yep.
I just like the number 7.
Nice. 777.
Yeah, double sevens.
That's pretty good. All right. This is going to be a fun one.
Oh,
so
boy.
It says, if ketchup is good on French fries, how come it isn't good on mashed potatoes? Put it on baked potatoes before, but never mashed.
Me either. It doesn't belong on mashed potatoes.
Right?
I take 2 French fries, scoop the ketchup, and I use a lot of ketchup, but I don't use it on weird things. So I don't put it on eggs or grilled cheese or mashed potatoes or baked potatoes. But what I use it on, I use a lot of pure sugar. It's awful.
Sugar's really good. So, like, when I do coffees, I literally make it into, like, a Frappuccino. I do, like, 2 sugars, 2 creams, just crush it. Anyway, so the isn't good on mashed potatoes. I bet you it is good. That's, like, a trick
It
question.
probably is.
Fine. Right? It's got to be good.
Sour
next time
cream's
I have
probably good on mashed potatoes.
I'm just going to do it just because, hey, remember this question? I'm like, oh, not good on mashed potatoes? Yeah, it is. So, anyway, people, I'm pretty sure there's probably people out there that put it on mashed potatoes. I'm pretty sure it's good. It's got to be good.
I'm sure it's fine. I'm not doing it, though.
You're not going to do it?
No.
All right, Rammie. How do people get a hold of you if they need anything regarding business banking? They just want to get a cup of coffee. You buy coffee. Actually, we first met when we, where did we go? Gastropub.
Yeah.
They just want to hang out and learn about the banking industry. Maybe you can try to get their business. How do people get a hold of you?
So people can call me at my office, 701-492-2617, or they can drop me an email at rjolson@bremer.com.
Perfect. That's 701-492-2617 and RJ Olson at bremer.com. RJ Olson, Olson.
Thank you.
At bremer.com.
Thanks so much for having me, Johnny. It's
Yeah,
been
you got
awesome.
anything else before we end this bad boy today?
I think
What
you're
do you got?
crushing it. I'm so
Awesome.
proud of you. This is going to be great.
Cool. Well, when we end this, I'm gonna ask for a couple names from a couple guests that you think that would be cool for the
Okay.
show. How's that sound?
Got it.
Perfect. All right, Rammie, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, ladies and gents, thanks so much. Till next time, peace.
We appreciate you joining us for this episode of the Johnny Miller Audio Experience. You can support the show by supporting your local businesses, especially today's guest. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Johnny_audio and recommend us to a friend. If they own a local business, even better. We look forward to helping your business get the word out right here on the Johnny Miller Audio Experience.